Well, thank you, President Libby, and thank you, Dean Petroskevich, for your warm welcome. Before I start, looking out here and seeing this wonderful gathering of friends and family, I'd like to ask the class of 2015 to join me in a round of applause for all the people who are here today who supported you getting to this landmark and who made this all possible, your friends, your family. It's great to be here today at Florida's first law school. It's an honor to take part in the ceremony and to welcome the class of 2015 into our noble profession. Becoming an honorary graduate of Stetson today is a special privilege I will always treasure, not only because of the school's long history and traditions, but even more because of what Stetson is doing today at such a critical time in the legal profession and a difficult time in the legal academy. Stetson's commitment to community service is evidenced by 30,000 pro bono hours, its national #2 ranking in legal writing education, and of course, its national #1 ranking in trial advocacy, including its recent win in the AAJ Advocacy Championship, speak to what Stetson's leadership, its faculty, and most of all, its students are doing. So it's a great honor to be part of that. It's also great to be back in the state of Florida. As President Libby's mentioned, I spent 36 days here in November and December of 2000 as General Counsel for Vice President Gore during the post-election recount. I learned many important lessons at that time, and I'll talk about some of them more broadly in a minute. But I want to start with one lesson that's particularly stuck with me, and it's a good lesson for newly minted lawyers because it's about the very first rule of law practice. Near the end of the recount, the Democratic and the Republican legal teams got into a fight about how to publicly release the hour-by-hour results from a statewide hand recount of votes that was underway. You younger people have to understand that this was all happening in the year 2000 BT, before Twitter. And so official releases of information were important. The Republican lawyers thought that my Democratic team had breached the protocols for releasing this information, and they asked a trial court judge in Leon County to hold me in contempt of court. Well, I was sure I had done nothing wrong and continued to work away on a brief that was due. A trial court judge in Leon County did convene a formal contempt proceeding, and I have to admit that the prospect of going to jail in Leon County did rattle around in my head. Worse still, given the high stakes of the presidential recount, the Klain contempt proceeding was broadcast live on national cable television. So my phone began to ring with calls that were meant to reassure me, I think. First, my mother called in tears. Second, Vice President Gore called, and he told me that his whole family was watching the proceeding on TV at the Vice President's residence, except for his wife, Tipper, who was in the kitchen baking me a cake with a file in it. Finally, though, the call that I most dreaded came. It was from my boss at my law firm, Warren Christopher, the former U.S. Secretary of State and chair of the very buttoned-down law firm where I was a partner. Secretary Christopher was a fastidious man, known for his sense of propriety, and I was pretty sure that in the 120-year history of my law firm, no partner had ever been jailed in Leon County. And I was even more certain that Secretary Christopher did not want me to become the first. So when I picked up the phone, I heard his stern, flat voice. "Ron," he said, "it sounds like you've gotten yourself in some trouble down there." Well, I began to explain, and he cut me off. "Ron, it appears that you have forgotten the very first rule of law practice." I racked my brain. It sounded very bad. How could I forget the first rule of law practice? What was the first rule of law practice? While my mind was searching for this answer, Secretary Christopher explained, "Ron, the first rule of law practice is this. If you're working on a hard case and someone is going to go to jail, make sure it's the client and not the lawyer." So I learned some valuable lessons here as a lawyer in Florida, and that leads to my main subject today. Class of 2015, during your time at Stetson, when you haven't been studying at O'Malley's, this incredible faculty has taught you how to be winners in the legal profession. You've learned how to win at trial and how to win on appeal, how to win in the courtroom, in the civic arena, in the community. You've learned how to win at the negotiating table, and even how to make both sides a winner there with win-win solutions. That's a lot of winning. So now I want to try, in the final 10 minutes of your legal education, to offer some pointers on a very different aspect of our profession, and perhaps even a more important one: how to lose. Losing is a subject about which I have a great deal of expertise. As a political advisor, I've worked on losing congressional campaigns, losing Senate campaigns, losing presidential campaigns. As President Obama's chief debate preparation advisor, I was in charge of getting him ready for his debate in Denver in 2012, which was the worst defeat suffered by any incumbent president in a debate in history. As a lawyer, I've lost more cases than I can count, including 2 notable unanimous defeats in 2 different state Supreme Courts. And of course, since the year 2000 and Bush v. Gore, I've practiced law knowing that no matter whatever else I do in my career, no matter whatever else happens, I will go to my grave having lost the most important case I've ever worked on. So you see, you have before you today the nation's leading, perhaps the nation's #1 expert on losing. Maybe that's why I was asked to speak. Because I think there's nothing we spend less time preparing you for, but will turn out to be more important in your careers than learning how to deal with defeat. And so I want to offer 5 brief observations about losing to close this gap in your education as you head out into our profession. First, show me a lawyer who has never lost an important case, and I will show you a lawyer who has never lived up to his or her potential. Lawyers who guard their one-loss records preciously are like powerhouse college football teams that schedule cupcake games in the fall to pad their records. They're fooling no one and proving nothing. You have worked too hard and come too far to play it safe now. Your family, your friends, your loved ones, you have invested too much in getting you here for you not to make the most of your opportunities. Take the hard cases. Take on the losing causes. Take on the risky representations. Lose badly. It's the only way to chase the fear of defeat from your hearts and open your minds to the unlimited possibilities that law practice provides to make a difference in our society. Second, it is defeat, not victory, that is the most insightful teacher of lawyers in practice. In my 30 years in practice in politics, I've learned virtually nothing from winning and virtually everything from my defeats. Winning is a sloppy teacher that gives you a false sense of comfort in your own instincts. Winning lets you believe that you won because you are naturally talented, or because you wore that lucky tie that your mom gave you, or because 2 hours of preparation really were enough. But defeat makes you ask the hard questions and focus on what you can do better next time. I didn't learn about how important ballot design and voter protection was from my work in the winning 1992 Clinton campaign. I learned that from our debacle in 2000. And as White House Ebola response coordinator, I didn't learn much from the patients we saved in West Africa or the hospitals that were ready to treat patients in the United States. I learned from the mistakes we made and the people that were lost along the way. Winning may be wonderful for the ego in the short run, but losing offers lessons that will last a lifetime. Third, as lawyers in particular, we know that progress in the law comes from cases that are lost, not cases that are won. Failed efforts to challenge established precedents are what enable the law to progress towards reform and justice. It's the lawyers who lost in Plessy versus Ferguson, Berea College versus Kentucky, or Gunglum versus Rice, who laid the groundwork for the transformational legal victory by the NAACP Legal Defense Fund in Brown versus the Board of Education. It's my former professor and mentor Larry Tribe, whose defeat in Bowers versus Hardwork led the way for Lawrence versus Texas. Today's losing argument is tomorrow's path-breaking precedent. So the only way the law can progress is by someone making that losing argument without fear or hesitation. You should be that someone. Fourth, it's our willingness as lawyers to accept defeat under the rule of law that shows our commitment to the rule of law. The demonstration of a nation's dedication to the rule of law is not in how those who win legal decisions accept those outcomes. It's proven by how we as lawyers accept defeat to under legal norms and standards. Our commitment to the rule of law isn't evident when the state uses its power and its laws to imprison the guilty. It's displayed when a prosecutor loses a case because she has complied with her legal obligation to turn over exculpatory material to the defense. A government of men can use its power to win any encounter that force can dictate. A government of law shows itself when it and its lawyers accept defeat due to laws that protect the rights of the individual, the underdog, and the powerless. Fifth and finally, on a personal level, over the course of your lives, it is defeat that will be the best sorter of your true and your false friends. As you accumulate successes in law practice and other endeavors, you will find a growing collection of people around you. You can learn a lot about the difference between good, better, and best champagne as you celebrate winning cases. Victory can even teach you what drinks not to mix with the good champagne. But your real friends in life aren't the ones who buy you a drink when you win. They are the friends who buy you dinner when you lose. As you proceed in life, don't dwell on those smiles all around photos on Instagram, but make a mental picture of every time you suffer a searing defeat and study who, in your mind's eye, is in that unhappy photo. Those are the people who really care about you and will matter in your life. In closing, I often think about the most powerful example of grace in defeat I have ever seen. My former boss and client, Al Gore, on the night he conceded the presidency to George W. Bush. In his televised speech, Gore said, quote, "As for the battle that ends tonight, I do believe that no matter how hard the loss, defeat may serve as well as victory to shake the soul and let the glory out." Today, with the suns on your faces and your family and friends around you, with this amazing institution ready to hand you diplomas and celebrate your hard work, class of 2015, all you can see in front of you is triumph and victory. But don't despair. The day and your careers are still young. There is plenty of time for you to get out there and suffer the horrible defeats and painful losses that are surely ahead, and that will surely make you the exceptional lawyers and people I know you can become. Congratulations.